This is a public service announcement. The purpose is to inform the American people of a serious health threat. There is a dangerous disease that must be stopped before it is allowed to spread and destroy our great nation. If you hate the word socialism, or know someone who does, then you're probably a victim of the Cold War syndrome. Now, what is the Cold War syndrome exactly? If you automatically associate socialism with the USSR or Mao, that's a clear sign of the cold. The symptoms of this disease include anger, extreme closed-mindedness, and, if allowed to spread, can destroy entire communities. Let it be clear that this is not the first time our country has faced a serious health problem, but this one is unique. Cold War syndrome is actually destroying the immune system that we have built up to protect ourselves in the past. The last time our country had a serious health issue like this one was the Great Depression. Now, during that time, we had no real immune system. The free market was allowed to wreak havoc on us, and wreak havoc it did. So, through our government, we had to fight back. We strengthened our immunity by building schools and infrastructure to get the blood of the economy flowing again. Then, we tried to prevent it from happening once again by creating Social Security, minimum wage, collective bargaining rights of labor, and extremely strict regulation on financial markets. These measures boosted our immunity immensely and helped to keep us healthy and strong for decades to come. What happened next was the very early stages of the Cold War syndrome. Now, much like HIV and autoimmune disease, it is almost impossible to tell that you have it in the earliest stages. On the surface, everything looked fine, but underneath, our country was attacking itself. As the Cold War and the threat of nuclear attack continued, the fear began to attack us internally. A string of dictatorships, under the guise of communism, were threatening our lives and freedoms like a virus. We allowed our fear to scare us into ignorance, and that ignorance led us to attack our own infrastructure. The good news, because ignorance is the root of the problem, education and awareness are the solutions. So consider this message either the cure or the vaccine, depending on your circumstances. Let us begin with this. The USSR and Communist China are not socialism. The most fundamental part of socialism is, you guessed it, democracy. Democracy is the heart and blood of any successful society in modern history. This is a stark difference between a socialist government that is ruled by a dictator and one that is ruled by the people. The inherent irony of calling socialism tyranny, like we've heard quite a bit in this country, is that in order to be socialism, it has to come from society, meaning it has to be by the people, of the people, and for the people. True socialism cannot exist without democracy. Now, just as socialism cannot exist without democracy, capitalism cannot exist without socialism. Socialism is the government, even in its most basic form of just a police force and a set of laws. The free market could not exist first without property rights, and property rights cannot exist without the existence of a police force, which is socialistic in and of itself. Capitalism and socialism are not at odds, are not against each other, but rather are impossibly intertwined. Public education, a public police force, public hospital, these are all socialist policies that have been around since the dawn of this great country. A healthy, educated population is absolutely critical to a successful democracy. To say that socialism is bad is to attack the very structure that has made this country so great. And that is exactly what the Cold War has done to us. We're attacking ourselves. In the past 50 years, those in power have told us to fear socialism, that somehow socialism will lead to tyranny, that we should stamp out any instance of socialism. They also say that we should cut taxes to avoid feeding this so-called problem, to starve it to death. It deserves to die in their eyes. Taxes have decreased on the rich from 84% in the 1950s to 38% in the 2000s. As this has happened, we have seen our public education system decline. Social Security has been underfunded to scare us, and public institutions of higher education have been decimated. It's harder and harder to get a good K through 12 education now than it ever has been, and earning a degree is becoming impossibly expensive. This is the destruction of what we have worked so hard to build. These institutions are the backbone of our economy, but more importantly, they're the backbone of our freedom. The less educated we become, the more easily manipulated we are into destroying ourselves. We have to stop destroying ourselves. We have to stop destroying the institutions that allow us to be free and democratic. We need to make a change. We need to start listening to each other. We need to start engaging in dialogue in order to turn the tide on this disease.